What up, what up? Welcome to another Basketball Pantheon video. We've been going through the divisions and showing you guys our all-time classic rosters for each franchise. This is Southwest Division. This is the second to last division that we will be doing. Wanted to go through it. If you don't know what we're doing, it's the peak year of each player with that team. If you want kind of a full explanation, go back, watch the first video, or watch some of the previous ones. But we're going to go ahead and go through Southwest Division, starting with the Memphis Grizzlies. And so, yeah, again, if this is your first time watching one of these videos, I'm going to kind of tell you which year we used and kind of the rationale and whether it's a created player and things like that. So, anyway, here we go. Memphis Grizzlies. This is Pau Gasol. This is the 2006 version of Pau Gasol. I'll give him a 90 overall. Marc Gasol. This is the 2013 version of Marc Gasol. They give an 88 overall. Zach Randolph. 2011 version of Zach Randolph, the year the Grizzlies upset the Spurs in the first round, 8-1 matchup. Sharif Abdur-Rahim. This is a created player. Yeah, not the best that we did. This is the 2000 version of Sharif Abdur-Rahim, but definitely deserved to be on the team. So Mike Conley. This is the current version of Mike Conley. Super underrated point guard. Obviously, right now, pretty much the highest paid player in the NBA. So, yeah, Bryant Reeves. This is actually Luke Herringode's player model, and we made it Bryant Reeves. So, Big Country, 1998 version of Bryant Reeves. And, yeah, he's an 83 overall. Shane Battier. This is easy. Traded him over from the 08 Rockets, and this is the 06 version of Shane Battier. Underrated career, Shane Battier. Rudy Gay. Moved him over from the Kings. This is the 2010 version of Rudy Gay, if he'll ever pop up here. There we go, Rudy Gay. So basically just moved him back to his old team. Mike Miller. This is the 2000 and let's see, we find it on our doc here. 2006 version of Mike Miller. So you see a few of these guys are going to be 06 version. It's one of the years they made the playoffs with Pau. Michael Dickerson. The 2000 version of Michael Dickerson. O.J. Mayo. Obviously out of the league right now, but did have a really nice rookie year with the Grizzlies. So this is the 2010 version of O.J. Mayo. Jason Williams, white chocolate. Could have put him on the Kings, but the Kings were loaded with guards. Probably had a slightly better season with the Kings, but yeah, I decided to put him on the Grizzlies. And this is the 2004 version of Jason Williams. He's on the game in the 06 Heat, so that was easy. Just trade him over and changed a couple things. Tony Allen. Lockdown defensive player. This is the 2013 version of Tony Allen. And that actually rounds out the roster. They do not have any reserve players. They just have 13. Grizzlies, a young franchise, obviously not the same wealth of talents that others do have. So here's the starting lineup. Mike Conley, Mike Miller, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, Pau Gasol, and Marc Gasol with Zach Randolph coming off the bench. Big Country, Rudy Gay, Michael Dickerson, Jason Williams, Shane Battier, O.J. Mayo, and Tony Allen. So lots of really nice swingmen, and then obviously a couple really good bigs, and then Zach Randolph coming off the bench. So not a terrible team. Conley's going to have to play a lot of point guard. Backup point guard is Jason Williams. So fun guy, but not necessarily the best. So yeah, it's not that great of a team. It's I don't know. Tough to kind of like sort out exactly what we wanted to do with them, and yeah, you're just kind of limited with how young of a franchise it is. But yeah, that is the Memphis Grizzlies. Next up on the list in the Southwest Division would be the Dallas Mavericks. So let's go ahead, get over to them. Better team than I thought it would be. Obviously, Dirk is kind of the marquee guy, and we went with the 06 version of Dirk Nowitzki. The MVP season was 07, but if you kind of look at his kind of advanced numbers, 06 version was a little bit better. Plus, it was the year they made the finals, so went ahead and put him on there. And this is the 03 Mavs player model of Dirk, so traded him over and just edited a few things, made him a little better. Mark Aguirre moved him over from the 89 Pistons. This is the 1984 version of Mark Aguirre. He'll be starting, obviously, for this team. Rolando Blackman, lots of good shooting guards on this roster, and he is the best. Rolando Blackman, this is the 1984 version. Michael Finley, moved him over from the 03 Mavs that are on the game. And this is the 2001 version of Michael Finley. So made him a little bit younger, edited his ratings a little bit. Jim Jackson, kind of a late addition. I kind of forgot about him until I was messing around with some of the class rosters and thought, oh, shoot, Jim Jackson should probably be on a roster. And had a really, really nice season with the Mavs early in his career. So this is the 1995 version of Jim Jackson. Obviously, he was a part of the Jamal Mashburn, Jim Jackson, and Jason Kidd, little triangle that broke up prematurely. Josh Howard, this is a creative player. That would be a decent job. I guess I'll kind of go in here and kind of show you guys what Josh Howard looks like. But one of my favorite players of that era, just kind of a do-it-all small forward. So yeah, from the profile on the back, looks pretty awesome. Nailed the accessories, so yeah, there's Josh Howard. Look, the creative players aren't going to be perfect. I'm not going to sit here and spend 3 hours on each player. So, yeah, and this is the '06 version of Josh Howard. Sorry, '07, his one All-Star season. Brad Davis. This is actually, I think it's the Steve Novak player model that we chose for Brad Davis. So, a little cheap, but looks somewhat like him. So, there's Brad Davis. I believe he has his number. Brad Davis has his number retired by the Dallas Mavericks. This is a 1983 version of Brad Davis. Jason Terry, 2007 version. Thought about '07, thought about '11, but '07 is just slightly better. So there's Jason Terry. He'll act as probably the starting point guard of this team, or we may bring him off the bench. But Harrison Barnes. This is the current version of Harrison Barnes. The Warriors were loaded. Didn't really see a need for him there, and he's having a good season for the Mavs. And I thought, I don't know, let's reward that. And so Roy Tarpley. This is the 1988 version of Roy Tarpley. The '88 Mavs, really good team, made it to the conference finals, pushed the Lakers to 7 games. So I had a few players from that team on this game. James Donaldson, 1987 version of James Donaldson. He'll act as probably the starting center for this team. Devin Harris, early career Devin Harris. The Nets version of Devin Harris was kind of strongly considered. That's the one time he made an all-star team, and this team didn't quite need a point guard, but I don't know, decided to put him on the Mavs. So this is the 2007 version of Devin Harris. Derek Harper, also making the cut, 1990 version of Derek Harper. And then Big Sam Perkins, could have been on the Lakers, could have been on the Pacers, could have been on the Sonics, could have been on the Mavs. Decided to put him on the Mavs. And he'll act as kind of backup center, backup power forward, depending on, how we want to play. Dirk can stretch the floor, so can Sam Perkins. So that might be kind of a nice modern group to use with those two guys. Defense is not going to be great, but this is the 1990 version of Sam Perkins, by the way. And then Big Sean Bradley threw him in at the last second. And this is, where is he at? Sean Bradley, the 2003 version. And the 2003 Mavs are on the game, so just traded him over and kept him the same. So there's your Dallas Mavericks. Let's look at the starting lineups. Yeah, it can kind of go a number of ways here. It's Derek Harper or Jason Terry. Jason Terry was kind of a lifetime bench player, so but he's quite a bit better than Derek Harper, so let's just go ahead and make that change. So Jason Terry's going to start. Rondo Blackman, Mark Aguirre, Dirk Nowitzki, and James Donaldson with Finley, Harper, Davis, Josh Howard, Roy Tarpley, Jim Jackson, Harrison Barnes, Devin Harris, and Sam Perkins, Sean Bradley in reserve. So yeah, I could see a scenario where maybe you have Sam Perkins active for a game if you want to go kind of the real stretch 4, stretch 5 type lineups, but that's what it'll look like for now. So there is the Dallas Mavericks. Let's get to the next team in the Southwest Division, and that would be the New Orleans Pelicans, possibly the worst team on the game for the all-time rosters. So best player, Anthony Davis. Pretty easy. This is actually the 2015 version of Anthony Davis, and I actually went back and looked at 2K13. I think he got up to a 93 or 94, so he may change that rating, but that's where he's sitting at for now. Baron Davis, had to create him. Wish he was on the game. Baron Davis did not wear a headband. This is a 2004 version of Baron Davis. Baron Davis did not wear a headband that year. I think it would have helped to make him look a little more realistic, but kind of from afar, when you look at him right here, it looks pretty good, and then definitely from behind, looks a lot like Baron Davis. So I think playing with him would be pretty cool. It'll, looks good. So there's Baron Davis, again, 2004 version. He's the second best player on this team. David West also made the cut. This is the '08 version of David West. Obviously, he's already on the game. Just moved him over. Jamal Mashburn is another creative player. Thought we did a pretty good job. So there is Monster Mash, and this is the 2003 version of Jamal Mashburn. And the Pelicans, just like the Hornets, their franchise history has kind of been changed up a little bit with the Charlotte Hornets coming back. So basically, their franchise kind of runs from when the Hornets moved to New Orleans. It's really weird, like how they've adopted like a different part of the history. So it's essentially like the 03-04 range to now is like the official Pelicans history. So here's Jamal McGlure, 2004 version, made the All-Star team. I remember being upset about that he made the All-Star team that year because it was like when you had to have a backup center. Just didn't make any sense. I think he got put in there over more deserving players, and then I remember having a really good game in the All-Star game, and my brother and I were upset about it. So, but there's Jamal McGlure, deserved to make the roster. So, Canadian Jamal McGlure. Tyson Chandler, part of that '08 team that made a nice little run. So this is the 2008 version of Tyson Chandler. Eric Gordon. Here's where we get to the point where it's kind of slim pickings with the Pelicans franchise. So it's technically the youngest franchise because of the way the Hornets have taken their history back. So this is actually the youngest franchise in the league officially. So Eric Gordon, 2014 version of him. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Drew Holiday. This is, I believe, the current version of Drew Holiday. Yes, it is. Current version. He might be up to an 82 in real life, so we might make that a little bit better. But PJ Brown, here's a creative player. Thought we did a decent job with this one. I also wanted to create PJ Brown to make sure he was on the '08 Celtics because he's missing from that game. So when you create a player, it just goes in that creative player pool, and you can edit him on multiple rosters. So that made that nice and easy. So there's PJ Brown. Thought we did a pretty good job. And yeah, this is the '03 version of PJ Brown. Ryan Anderson, again, not that inspiring, but 2013 version of Ryan Anderson. David Wesley, he was on the '07 Cavs, but played decent amount of his career in New Orleans. This is the 2004 version of David Wesley. Tyreke Evans made the cut. Obviously, the Pelicans are in the news right now because they just traded for DeMarcus Cousins. So Tyreke Evans no longer a member of this team, but went back to Sacramento. 2015 version of Tyreke Evans. And then J.R. Smith rounds out the roster. This is the '06 version of J.R. Smith. Give him a 79 overall. That might even be a little bit too high. So here's the starting lineup. Baron Davis, Eric Gordon, Jamal Mashburn, David West, Anthony Davis, with Jamal McGlure, Tyson Chandler, P.J. Brown, Drew Holiday, J.R. Smith, Tyreke Evans, David Wesley, and Ryan Anderson rounding out the rest of the bench. So yeah, not probably the worst team that we've done so far. And yeah, again, just not a lot to choose from, but we still have a nice mix of like the current and the past here. But yeah, that's enough of them. Let's get to one of the better teams, the Houston Rockets, next up on the list. 13-man roster for them because some of their better players in franchise history had really good seasons with other teams. Kind of the same problem that ran into the Miami Heat. They have a nice history, but a lot of the guys like Moses Malone wasn't going to be on this team. I put him on the Sixers. So anyway, let's get going. Here's Hakeem Olajuwon, 1994 version of Hakeem Olajuwon. That was simple. Moved him over from the 94 Rockets. James Harden, current version of James Harden, 94 overall in here. He may go up or down based on what happens right before we start this tournament in real life. So I think he's actually at 95 on the game right now. So may edit that. Yao Ming, the recently enshrined into the Hall of Fame. Yao Ming. This is the 2005 version of the big man. Rudy Tomjanovich. This is a creative player. Obviously, eventually coached the Rockets. It's really tough to create white guys, honestly, on this game. They just have kind of odd facial structures and features of white guys. But again, from afar, when you're playing with them, it'll look pretty good. And once I use kind of the old school jerseys, it'll look better. But yeah, there's Rudy Tomjanovich. Definitely deserved to be on the game. He had some awesome seasons with the team. So we give him an 87 overall, and this is 1974 version, Rudy Tomjanovich. Calvin Murphy, here's going to be the starting point guard for this team, 1974 version. Currently working for the Rockets in their TV or radio? Yeah, TV side, I think. Ralph Sampson. Thought we nailed this one. This looks pretty good. With the mustache, it always helps when the guys have distinct either accessories or facial hair or hairstyles or something like that. But here's Ralph Sampson, 1984 version, his rookie year. And we'll probably start him at power forward alongside Olajuwon like they did back in the day. It might be kind of fun. So there's Ralph Sampson. Stevie Franchise. This is the 2001 version of Steve Francis. We moved him over from the '08 Rockets, I believe he's on. He kind of went back to the Rockets later in his career, so player model was already there. That was nice. Coutinho Mobley, here's a creative player. Coutinho Mobley, underrated historically, I think. Yeah, here's another guy. The accessories really help, and the fact that you can make him left-handed, things like that. Obviously, that'll be just make him distinct enough to where it doesn't just look like some random creative player, at the back end of the historic team roster. So there's Coutinho Mobley. It's the 2001 version of him. Or 2002, I think we changed. Yep, 2002. Otis Thorpe, 1994 version. He's on the game already. Just moved him over. Luis Scola. This is the 2009 version of Luis Scola. Kenny Smith, the Jet, 1991 version of him. Robert Horry. Two-time champ with the Rockets, seven-time champ overall, 1994 version of Robert Horry, who moved him over from the 94 Rockets. Vernon Maxwell, 1991 version, so we made him, I think, a little bit better than the 94 version has him at. And that rounds out the roster, so let's look at their rotation real quick. Calvin Murphy, James Harden, Rudy Tomjanovich, Ralph Sampson, and Hakeem Olajuwon as your starters. Really nice starting lineup. It's going to be a fun team. Offensively, yeah, kind of crazy. Off the bench, Yao Ming, Steve Francis, Coutinho Mobley, Otis Thorpe, Vernon Maxwell, Robert Horry, and Kenny Smith, and Luis Scola. So, pretty good team. Yeah, I would say in the top half of the teams that we created. So, let's get to the last team in the Southwest Division. This is San Antonio Spurs. Look, I'm from San Antonio, so obviously this team kind of meant a lot to me. I finished making this team yesterday. A bunch of them are on the game, but I had to kind of create. I ended up having to create, I think, 4 or 5. Let's just get going. Tim Duncan, the 2003 version of Tim Duncan, MVP, champ that year, Finals MVP, almost put up a quadruple double in Game 6 of the 2003 Finals, a game that I was in attendance for. Legendary. So Tim Duncan, obviously, gonna be on that game. David Robinson, this is his MVP season. We thought about MVP season, but when you really look at it detailed, and you probably could make the rating about the same, but this is actually the 1994 version of David Robinson. His MVP year was 1995, so we give him a 95 overall. David Robinson, historically underrated, in my opinion. Kawhi Leonard, this is the current version of Kawhi Leonard. I think on the game they have him as a 95. We have him at 94 right now. We'll see what he's at when we decide to start the tournament. But yeah, Kawhi Leonard, incredible. He's already just 1 attribute point behind David Robinson, who was an MVP one season. Iceman, George Gervin, gave him a 90 overall. And this is the 1978 version of George Gervin. Tony Parker, 2013 version. Could have gone with 07, the year he won Finals MVP. That might have been like his absolute peak, but I would argue he was at a better place mentally later in his career, if not physically. So we gave the 2013 version. Manu Ginobili, 2008 version. I wish you could change the hair because I wish we could get the long hair Ginobili. That would be a lot more realistic, but you can at least change the years pro and all that stuff, and we try to make it seem like a younger version, made it more athletic. So 89 overall for Manu Ginobili. Some people might think this is high for these two. I think we just remember this is peak season. This is not just like overall production and things like that. But even then, I mean, these guys are Hall of Famers. So Larry Kenon, he'll act as the backup power forward for this team. Finished creating him yesterday. This is 1977 version of Larry Kenon. Awesome athlete. Kind of a historically underrated player. Didn't have that long of a career, so maybe that's part of it. But yeah, really, really good player and kind of a weird in-between period of Spurs basketball. James Silas kind of bridged the gap in the ABA to NBA years. This 1976 version of James Silas. He was a quintessential 70s player. Let's go ahead and look at him. Had a nice beard, wore the gold chain, wore a puka shell necklace and photo shoots. But yeah, there's James Silas. He'll act as the backup point guard on this team. Or backup shooting guard. I guess third string shooting guard because Ginobili will technically be the backup. Sean Elliott. 1996 version of Sean Elliott, an all-star season for Sean. Hit the Memorial Day Miracle. Obviously holds a place in San Antonio fans' heart and is now the color commentator guy for Spurs TV. Alvin Robertson. 1986 version, great defensive player. Led the league in steals. '85 version of him. I thought that looked pretty good. You still see him wandering around San Antonio these days. Yeah, Bowen's gonna be fun to play with. Danny Green made the cut over Vinny Del Negro, just simply because. Team. Malik Rose is the 03 version, and Avery Johnson is the 96. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, and then Manu Rose, Danny Green, and Avery Johnson in reserve. So a full 50. So that runs out the Southwest Division. We've got one left. Hope you guys stick around and catch the next video.